Welcome back to season 2 of Recovery APN. Andy?
Hey, Dan. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to be back for another season. You surprised we're here?
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised we're here. 2 knuckleheads and we're still here, but we get to highlight our alumni, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's crazy. I think that like starting this project, I was just like unaware of where it was going to go.
Yeah.
And how powerful the messages were going to be.
Yeah.
And just hearing the feedback from internal staff, other alumni, family, friends, it's been like truly amazing, and I'm like very grateful we have this opportunity.
Yeah, again, we had they said we're going to do a podcast. Like my head spun off. I was in a mental pretzel. But the fact that we've done this and we've able to highlight the alumni and what they're doing, and then like the feedback from staff and from other alumni wanting to be on the show, and we're hopefully season 2 and then season 3, and we just keep it rolling.
I will give you credit when credit's due.
Thank you.
You've learned a tremendous amount of podcast lingo that I'm proud of you of.
A lot of pod lingo, as they would say in the biz.
Yeah. Yes.
My levels are good right now.
Yeah. So let's talk about the episode we have coming up with Amy.
Great episode with Amy. She did a great job.
Obviously, all the episodes are unique.
Obviously.
But she did an incredible job in talking about her experience coming to APN twice, which I think is challenging in itself.
There's a lot of humility there, and usually that's a good thing for people, but coming in that second time is difficult to walk through the doors.
Yep. And then having to leave a family at home, 4 children, a husband is, I'm sure, extremely difficult in a life.
Yeah. No, she's, like we said, to hear her story and what she had to sacrifice to work on herself is just, it's truly inspirational.
Yeah, I always give credit to individuals I give credit to every individual, but I think...
You just gave credit to me a little while ago. That was great.
But especially the ones that are leaving a family.
Yeah.
When I went to APN, I had a family, but I didn't have a wife. I didn't have children. So I would say it was easier because I didn't feel like I was leaving anyone behind. I wasn't leaving... Like, I didn't have to say, oh, who's going to take care of my kids? Who's going to support my family? And I just think that that's so challenging to overcome.
Sure.
On top of whatever you're struggling with.
And don't take this the wrong way. Once I get to the end, you'll get it. But having a family and having children can almost be a barrier for me to get help, because like, well, how could I leave? And you feel like you're letting them down or you're disappointed. But really the amount of courage it takes to say, hey, you're going to stay with dad. I'm going to go work on myself so I can be a better me is it's tough. And it's like, God bless anybody that could do it. I don't know if I could have been able to do it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know, like, I experienced it with my dad, and he didn't necessarily go away, and he always talked, and I always asked him why. And, he was supporting my family and didn't have the luxury of doing that. But I give credit for him doing both of it, right? Providing and focusing on himself, which I'm sure it's challenging himself. Yeah. And I also liked how she talked about the service piece.
Yeah, big part. I mean, service can be, it can kind of fill a hole internally that we don't even know we have, kind of that spiritual malady that service can kind of fill. And to hear her talk about that and the impact it made on her to be helpful, again, is just inspirational.
I agree, and I think we both can relate to it. It's what if you do the 12 steps or whatever you're doing in your recovery and it's working, I feel like a lot of people tend to go down that journey, and I've experienced it, you've experienced it, she's experienced it, whomever, and then you want to just help that other individual experience it too. Yeah. And I think it's almost like if you're doing all the right things, that's going to happen.
I heard somebody once describe this concept as like when someone needs help and they've never experienced it, it's like me explaining what a rose smells like to that person, but they've never seen a rose or smelt a rose. So it's like impossible to tell them how helpful being helpful is. You know what I mean? Like, it's so life-changing, but it's like when I describe, I want to help people, I feel better. It's like, well, you sound like an idiot, right? But like once you do it, you're like, now I get it, right? So now Amy's in that position, and she loves it, and to hear her talk about it, it's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I guess before we start the episode, I just got to give a quick shout out to Keith and Madison for doing an unbelievable job in season 1.
Always shout out to them.
And Madison putting together the season 1 recap, because that was incredible. And if you haven't watched it, I urge you to watch it. You can find it on our YouTube page or on the website. It gives you a synopsis of a lot of different individuals that we had on the podcast talk about their experience.
Real quick, I want to plug one of our other APN pod
Okay.
families. I had the opportunity to be on Therapy on Box with Lana as a recovery kind of expert, which I think it's just a funny term, but just because I've been in the field for a couple of years, I got to kind of fill that role and talk about recovery. So if you like this pod, please listen to Therapy on Box with Lana. It'd be great.
I think if you like this podcast, you'll love Lana's. Check it out. It's on the APN YouTube page as well. It's on the website also at apn.com/podcast. Without further ado, Amy, welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Amy.
Thank you.
How does it feel to be back?
It feels really good to be back. I left here in September, and I came back in November for the alumni weekend, and that was good. Definitely, a whole different lens coming back when you've been on the outside. And now after being away, another 2, almost 3 months, coming back, I feel even further away, in a good way.
Sure.
So, I never know how I'm going to feel when I walk through those doors. No. But now I walk through those doors just so proud.
That's great.
And grateful.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about how you feel. Today I sat in one of Dustin's groups, and he always passes the ball around, and it says how are you feeling? And every time I do it, I use the same word, and I use comfortable. For whatever reason, when I walk through the doors, and I'm curious if you feel this way, is that when I walk through the doors of APN, it's weight's just, whatever weight was on my shoulders, it's just removed, and I just feel this comfortable sensation.
Yeah. I can still remember the first time I came here, which was in January of 22, walking through those doors. It's one of those moments in my life I can remember. And it was like walking into a warm hug. It truly, you feel like I just left the world outside, and here I am. Yeah. And I'm safe, and I'm supported, and I felt ready to, do what I needed to do.
My experience too is that it feels like yesterday, but it also almost seems like a lifetime ago, right? And that I can't even remember the misery, yes. that feeling the day one or day zero, right before you come in, and what life was like. But it also is fresh, and when you come back, you get that all that comes up again in a good way and in a not a good way. But then, like Dan said, you're in this comfortable, safe place, so it turns into gratitude and healing almost.
It does. And, I see people that were here, different staff members that were here when I was here. And I look at them, and they look at me, and they're like, welcome back. It's so good to see you doing so well. I think it's rewarding for all of them also.
So what we typically like to do on the show is give our guests the opportunity to kind of share their experience. Mm-hmm. So typically we start with what ultimately brought you to APN, and I want for you to know go as deep or as surface level as you want, whatever you feel comfortable in doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that I came here, the reason that I came here was because I was having terrible emotional issues. I was drinking, and I had been to I think 3 other treatment centers in about a 3-year period, and it just wasn't giving me what I needed. So I, started looking for a treatment center that really focused on trauma. I just felt that was something that was really missing in my recovery. So I found APN. For me, a lot of my life has been, experiences on top of experiences that I wasn't recognizing, wasn't dealing with, didn't think they were worth acknowledging, just kind of stuffed everything down, and I definitely came to a tipping point where there was another event that tipped me. And that's when my mental health got really bad. I started drinking a lot. And I was a blackout drinker. I just I didn't want to feel, I didn't
Numb
want
it.
to think. Yep.
Yeah.
And so I, was not taking care of myself at all. And I knew it for, a few years because I had this day where I was standing in my kitchen and I went, there's something wrong. There's something really wrong. I don't know what it is. And I made a few phone calls to friends and my family. And they said, yeah, we know there's something wrong. There's something going on. Let's go get you some help. And that's when I started going to treatment. And from there, it was just like a cycle. Go to treatment, come home, go to treatment, come home. I wasn't really, like I said, getting what I needed. It's like being in the middle of a hurricane. I was in the middle of a hurricane, and I couldn't see everything that was happening around me,
You sure?
Yeah, so I found APN.
How'd you find APN? Like, do you know somebody? Or Google search?
I don't. I Google searched.
Oh, wow.
And we've been here since 2020.
Yep.
And I think the last time I'd gone to treatment was maybe 2019. So when I was looking those years, APN wasn't here. Yeah. And it popped up, and I love the mountains, and I love Colorado, and it looked beautiful. And it had the word trauma in there, and I thought, I think that's what I need. And then I made the phone call, and the person that I spoke to on the phone was really good, really supportive, really helpful, encouraging. And that really helped me make my decision. Yeah. And I think I gave them my information. The next day they got back to me, and I was probably here maybe a day or two later.
And I think real quick, just to kind of highlight people that never really get highlighted, right? Because people work in treatment from the front end all the way to the back end, and then sometimes there's people clients don't even see. But like, the shout out to our admissions, people that are on the phone, and they get that first point of contact a lot of times with people.
Yeah.
And, because of their knowledge and warmth and compassion and ability to explain what we do, again, like, if it was another person that answered that phone, maybe, with a different setup, maybe you're like, oh, I'm not sure about that place, right? But like, how the stars align kind of deal. So I think that's pretty cool. And shout out to the admissions team for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give firsthand acknowledgement to them. They do an incredible job in talking to our prospective clients. They make them feel comfortable on the phone. Mm-hmm. A lot of them have been through it themselves, so they get it, which makes it a lot easier. I guess before we get into your experience at APN, I wanted to ask you what was it like knowing, you have 3 kids? 4 kids, and a husband, and having to leave them to come to treatment. Like, how was that conversation or discussion with them?
Yeah, it was so necessary. There was no other option. And, I literally made the decision, made all the plans, and then shared with them. And I think they knew as well, because they could see, what was happening with me. And again, I did it several times. I mean, after a while, it kind of became a way of life for me almost for a few years. Mom's leaving again. So at the time, I didn't have a lot of emotion about it because I was so caught up in what was happening.
I was going to ask that. Did you feel like pressure to, like, hey, I got to get it this time, or I got to find a place that gets me, or like. But you just said there's so much kind of else going on. But like, did that ever kick in throughout, like, hey, day 10 or day 12, or was that there every day? Like, what did that? I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves there, but I just that's where my head went to right there.
Yeah. Again, I felt like there was no other option. There was no place for me at home. I wasn't being a functional member. It
was almost like business trip. Like, hey, we're gonna go. Yeah. We're gonna go take care of this.
Yeah, like a business trip.
I like that.
Yeah, and persistence.
Good. All right.
Yeah.
And I always find those conversations with family intriguing.
Yeah.
And I think what people don't necessarily recognize when they're going through it is your family, or most families, will support you no matter, like, whatever you're doing to get help.
Yeah.
But you believe something different. And I know for me, like, I always thought they were, like, pushing me to go to treatment because, like, they just wanted me to get off their hands and know that I was in a safe spot so they didn't have to worry about me. But in reality, they just wanted me to get the help I need so I could be a functioning member of the family.
Yeah.
But I thought about all the negative things because of that, just my beliefs, right, of what I made up. And I
Yeah.
know it's always like, it's difficult to talk about and share, especially early on, because you're embarrassed of any actions.
Sure. And I think that now it almost bothers me more because I have so much more clarity. You know, at the time I didn't have all the clarity. I didn't see how it was affecting everybody. Now I can look back and I have the clarity. And I feel like I'm still going through that pain of having to
Sure.
leave my family. Yeah.
But like, we're here, we're in a good spot now, you know what I mean? And now it's like, thank God we found a place and we arrested, the behavior, and we can move forward. And
Yeah.
instead of living in that 18 months and back
Yeah.
to treatment and back to treatment. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Grateful.
How did
For
you
sure.
how did you know to include trauma in your search, like that was what you were looking for? Was that part of the first couple of treatment experiences?
Possibly. I think I became a fan of Gabor Mate. And, I read a lot of spiritual books, and I was at the time. And I just thought it was one area that I hadn't really touched on. And so, it was like, okay, let's try this.
Yeah.
Let's go in this direction. And I think that, again, not getting ahead of ourselves, that APN certainly is in the forefront of helping people with their trauma and their recovery from substance abuse, mental health,
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that's a good segue into your experience at APN.
Yeah.
I think it's always interesting for us and for everyone to get a look at like what your experience was like, whether, what you felt was very extremely beneficial, or were there individuals at the lodge here that you formed good relationships with, whether it be the community or staff members. I mean, it was your experience, so I'll let you take it away, but I think it's always helpful to hear about like what you went through here.
Yeah. Like I said, I was here January 22 until March of 22, went home for 3 months, came back middle of June, and was here till the beginning of September. So the first 8 weeks that I was here, I think that at least when I go to treatment, it takes me a few weeks to get comfortable and to get my head in a good space to really take in the therapy.
Yeah. Almost land. Takes 6 weeks. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and get to know the therapists and all the people around me, and, have some trust there. And, so, it definitely takes a few weeks. And, I think the therapy here is amazing. I had an incredible primary therapist, they call it, and he did my group every day in the morning for 2 hours every single day. You have a group in the morning. I think that's changed a little bit, but you're with these people the whole way through, and you get to know each other, and it's an incredible experience. And so you all know everything about each other. I know more about these people than I'll ever know about other people in my entire life. And they're my good friends. And we all have full respect for what everybody's gone through. I think, people come to treatment for different reasons and because different things were going on in their lives. We have the substance abuse, we have the mental health. Maybe you have a legal problem. Maybe you had a problem at work. Maybe you have a problem with your family. Maybe you're working, maybe you're not working, maybe you're old, maybe you're young, all of that. But when you're here, you're all the same. It's like you're one big group. And within that, we have our process groups, and I think there were 8 or 10 people in there. And that's where a lot of your work happens. So the first time I was here, we have different classes, DBT, CBT, art, yoga. And for a lot of that, I didn't have a good headspace for it. And I emotionally, I don't think I was ready for what a lot of that could do for me. I was still kind of pushing away a lot in my mind. And so although I was learning a lot, I wasn't practicing a lot. And towards the end of that first day, I started, really getting into my therapy and really feeling a lot and being very emotional for weeks for the first time in my life.
Almost like an overload.
An overload.
Yeah.
And I mean, just, tears for hours. And so I did that kind of towards the end. And then I was like, I can't do this anymore. I got to go home. And I literally bought my ticket and went home the next day because I thought, I can't do it anymore. Yeah. I was exhausted. Yeah. At the same time, I knew, this is kind of where the recovery really begins. My biggest problem this whole time, past few years, was I never wanted to sit in my pain. Never wanted to sit in my pain. I wanted to run away. And I did.
It hurts.
I ran away all the time.
Yeah.
It hurts. And, that was something here that the therapist would say, you have to sit in your pain. And I would hear all those things, and I was like, oh, yeah, you have to sit in your pain. And so, anyway, so I had my first time here, and then I went home for a while, and I knew, I wasn't fully home. I kind of had one foot here, one foot there. And then in June, I just realized I got to go back. And it was another one of those things where I called and the next day I was here because things were starting to happen. I mean, I was doing dangerous things and I could tell I was going into that rabbit hole and I wanted to catch myself before I got into that rabbit hole. So I came back and I had the same therapist that I had the first time. So he knew everything about me. And, that was the first time that I realized I had a story. Because you go to these treatment centers or any therapist and they say, tell me your story. What's your story? Or share your story with the group. And I would always say, I don't have a story. I have no story. Write your story. I don't have a story. I couldn't even put pen to paper with it. And then that second stay, I realized I had a story. And then I had to start, addressing the hard parts.
The story. Yeah.
The story, the hard parts of the story, which is exactly what I didn't want to do. So, that was very, very hard. And again, it took weeks of a lot of pain and a lot of emotional pain. And I had to sit through it. Safe place. Yeah. I couldn't have done it anywhere else. So safe, so supported with the staff and with, all my friends. You're just really there for each other. So, that's when I think things, really started to get better for me. Towards the end of that stay, I started doing yoga, which I could not do yoga before. And I realized, I shared this with my therapist. I said, I can't do yoga because when I take a deep breath, I start to feel pain. Mm-hmm. When I take that deep breath, for some reason, that's where my pain is. And I got to the point where I could do yoga, and I could take that deep breath. I started to do art, where before I couldn't do art, because I thought I'm terrible at art. I don't want to do art. And then I realized I don't care if I'm terrible. I still want to do art. It's relaxing. It's fun. I like it, And, we do CBT and DBT. Well, in the beginning, when I first started coming here, I was like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about, And again, my head just wasn't in the space. And you have classes on boundaries, which all sounds so simple, but it really isn't. So towards the end of my, final stay here, I finally started to get things. I started to get DBT, everything, CBT, boundaries. We talk about codependence, being healthy, filling up your time, exercising, connecting with nature, reading, staying in touch with your friends, community. Don't be alone.
Sure.
Isolation is terrible for someone like me. So, all of that, I started really just getting it. And I think in order for me to get it, I had to I just had to go through the storm.
It was like you weren't ready after that first time. Like you were close and it like needed to click. And then once it clicked, I liked how you said how you were willing to dive into the afternoon stuff too, not just the process groups.
Yeah.
How the whole thing is a process, right? And
Yeah.
and doing the DBT and the CBT and the nature and all that is just as beneficial. And the yoga, like it's not, hey, this works for everybody. Here, do this. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and that's what works for me. And I think that's great that you're able to realize that and do that. My quick question, and you don't have to say, but who's the therapist? I'm kind of curious.
Michael Seeley.
All right, awesome. Shout out Michael. Yeah.
It's
Where you
we
at?
come from very different backgrounds and all these things, and a lot of the things you brought up I went through. I came to APN twice. The first time I left, I thought I was ready, but I think thought I was ready, but like still had another stunt in me where like it was like I recognized that I had a problem, but I wanted one more run out there. Like I was like, okay, hand up, I had an issue, but like I gotta like finish what I started.
Not ready to stop at that point.
Yeah. And to what Andy said, you had mentioned all like the afternoon stuff, like DBT, CBT, yoga, boundaries, codependent, all these things. I remember the first time I was here, I was just like, all right, like I clearly know how to communicate properly. I talk for a living.
Clearly.
Right? I have boundaries. Fuck off. You know, like those type of things. But once I let the second time when I came back, and once I let my guard down and said like, I am not in control of what's happening. I need to shut up and listen and do what I'm told, is when I started to learn. Like I recognized and I identified like, yes, I need to, whatever I'm doing is not working, and I need to listen and ask for help. And to your point, I started to learn in DBT and CBT. Today, I rarely use the word but. I use and now. And boundaries. If I have an issue, like I don't say fuck off. I like communicate properly.
Yeah.
Or I don't communicate, like I don't like ruffle feathers anymore. I'm getting better at that. But it's just interesting to hear, like, obviously, I don't know, I find it very intriguing when, like, I can relate to a lot of people that I didn't think I could relate to. I think that happens a lot today.
Sure.
Or here. But no, it's just very intriguing. And it's amazing that you were able to come back, and it's amazing you came and asked for the help you needed. And that Michael had an amazing impact on you.
Yeah. I think, too, that second time that I came back, I remember, again, going through those doors, and I felt like I was just skinned. I felt like I had nothing left. I really did.
And it's obnoxious when people say, but that, like, what a great place to start from when you come back. Like,
yeah,
you know, like, hey, good starting point. You know what I mean? It sucks because it hurts.
Yes.
But also, like, let's get going now.
Yeah, and I was ready to just be completely vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, just completely see through with everybody.
For both of you two-timers at APN, I don't even know, Dan, that we asked you in your episode, but what was your family's reaction when you came home the first time? And had you left early or had you left on schedule your first time?
Well, I came to be a believer. First of all, when I first started going to treatment, I would go to treatment for 30 days. And I think I thought, 28, okay, 2 days, I'm going home. Everything's going to be good. You know, and I think people back there thought, okay, 30 days, she's coming home. She's going to be good. And nothing could be farther from the truth. When I came here the first time, I thought, I'm going to stay for a while. I'm just going to stay for a while. And then I came home, and clearly, I wasn't ready. But when I came back this final time, I decided, even my family, I said, I don't know how long I'm going to be there. I'll be there as long as I need to. I'll stay for months if I have to.
And what'd they say?
They just kind of looked at me.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
I was here a total of 4.5 months, and I mean, it takes what it takes.
100%. I'm kind of curious. Did you do family therapy?
We didn't do any family therapy. The thing was, I felt when I went to treatment, I was juggling a lot of balls. and I felt that I was really trying to address a lot of the family issues. And this last time I went to came to APN, I thought, you know what? I'm going to focus on myself 100%. That's how I'm going to be there for everybody. And then when I get home, deal with the rest of it. Like I said, I think for me, juggling all those balls, it was too much for me. I couldn't do. A lot of people do, and I think that's amazing. And people love the family therapy here, but it just wasn't a time for it. Yeah.
Were your children and husband supportive during that 4.5 months?
They were. They absolutely were. They came out here on vacation.
Oh, amazing.
And yeah, so they came up here on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, and we spent the afternoon. So they got to see where I was.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible.
Mm-hmm. And and I think they knew, Mom's safe. She's doing okay here. Nobody knows what treatment's like.
No.
And, people ask me, and I think even when I went off to treatment the first time, you think, oh, God, they're going to tell me how awful I am. They're going to shame me. They're going to...
Hospital setting.
Yes, they're going to be mean to me, and they're going to make me feel really bad. And it's like, we already feel bad. That's why we're here. Yeah. That's not the approach that treatment takes. So I think for them, again, they just saw that I was in a good, safe, calming environment, and that made them feel good.
You know what? Yeah. You mentioned it earlier in that, like the 4.5 months, right? And in my experience, I've been in the field since 2014-ish, 15-ish, right? And people that they have data, shame on me for not doing this research and doing a little more work beforehand. But the data, when people stay 60 days compared to 90 days, compared to 120 days, like the growth and the people do better, right? Kind of deal. Because like you said, people don't land till like day 65. So picture if you did 30 days of treatment, like you didn't even arrive really. What do you have time to really work on, right? So, and again, thank God you're in a situation where you had family that supported and you were able to come to a place and do that and stay for a considerable amount of time and really do deep work and kind of get to the underlying stuff. So shout out you there. That's because it's not easy, because everyone's like, oh, I got so much. People want to rush back because it's like this delusional idea of controlling their life, which is horseshit, but like it's what we can hold on to, right? Kind of deal when we're feeling low. So I really think that's pretty interesting. I you kind of talked about it, but kind of touch on that with seeing people kind of your peers coming and going in that 4 months. Like, did you have any cool relationships or like really good relationships that you met early on compared to the last month of your stay? Or,
there were actually a couple of people here that were here from the first time.
Oh, wow.
So, and in fact, I just ran into someone else that was here the second time. So people are coming back, and people are doing the same thing that I'm doing. And I have a lot of relationships with people that are, they're definitely my friend group.
Love
and, I heard someone say once, I want to be with the people who've been in the trenches and who've, been dirty and been, down and out and, and came back from it. And that's how I feel too. I feel like I have so much in common. And I feel no judgment from anybody because we're all the same. Yeah. We've all done, the same stuff. So
love it.
Good friends.
Yeah. A lot of what hit me a lot in the back and forth was the stigma. And I always try to bring that back because I think there is this stigma. And I think you had mentioned, or one of you mentioned about what treatment's like. You don't know what treatment's like unless you walk through the door yourself and you hear I gotta go 30 days and I'm out. Because I know the stigma probably is you go to 30 days, you got fixed, and then you leave and you're supposed to be all good. And I know this has been a hot topic, is also sober living's halfway houses, right? You talk about a halfway house, and I had this opinion too. It's I'm not going to a halfway house.
Yeah, I'm better than that. But
right?
I've never seen one or been one.
Seen one, experienced one. It's just the word halfway house. I don't need to go back to a dorm with bunk beds in a room and all this stuff. But then you like learn about it and you're like, yeah, you could be living in a mansion in Malibu in a halfway house.
And have a bunch of friends.
Yeah, have a bunch of friends sitting
Yeah.
on the couch watching the Super Bowl for all you know. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just interesting how the stigma is for the individuals that have never experienced treatment or a family member gone through treatment before. Because to your point, like I like to think that 30 days is enough to solve the world's problems or your problems is just bonkers.
Yeah, it's tough.
But I also respect too that some people don't have the time or resources to stay, and there's and I appreciate all the time that I had at APN, and I think, and I'm curious to get your opinion on this, because we've talked about this before, but you come to APN and your ability to get vulnerable and open up, but it's only APN is here to lay groundwork for you for the rest of your life. And it's going to teach you the tools and give you resources so that when you do go into the real world, you could utilize them. But that's like, I don't want to say the true test, but it's where you really, you take
what you learned and implement it in your life.
But it's like that next level of like, okay, I don't have this 24/7 community supporting me. I don't have the opportunity to see Michael tomorrow and kind of and go over everything I've experienced. Like you kind of have to like put that weight back on your shoulders. And I'm kind of curious on how you did that and what approach you took.
Yeah. You're definitely in a bubble when you're in treatment. I think most people would agree. And going out into the world can be a little shocking, especially those first few days, that first week. And it's also, kind of sad because you left your dearest friends and, your therapist and everything. I think that's really hard. It is for me, and I'm sure it's hard, for a lot
everybody,
of people.
yeah.
But I was amazed how, since I did the second stint here, so much of what I learned here became second nature. Just like Dan, you said about, you say and instead of but. And I do the same thing. And I, even talking to my kids about things, parenting them, I say, that's true and this is true. And that's just one example of so many I could give you. But so much has become second nature. I ran into my art teacher downstairs and I said, when I first started doing art here, I hated it, and then by the end I loved it. And because it's so peaceful. And at home, I paint.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you're able to do that at home.
Yeah,
So,
I am.
That's great.
I'm not good at it. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's relaxing, and I'm proud of it. Like, look what I did.
It's probably a form of meditation without even calling it meditation.
It is. And exercise, I think we've talked about this. Starting my day with exercise is so important. I wake up, I know that's going to happen, really soon. And that clears my head. I need to keep my head clear because, that hamster can get going, and that is what gets me into trouble. Exercise, meditation, certainly. And with that, yoga's a part of that.
Sure.
I also feel that, most forms of exercise that I do is kind of meditative because I am focusing on what I'm doing. But I'm not thinking about, my problems or anything else going on.
You're present.
I'm present.
And that's what meditation is.
Yes. Yeah.
It's great.
Present, mindful. So much has become second nature. And I'm so passionate about this world. I'm just so passionate about it. And now I am able to help other people that I've been through treatment with that are still struggling. A couple months ago, I flew to help a friend get back into treatment. And I was so honored that they asked me to do that. I really was.
And then you're in a position to then do it and to be helpful. Yeah.
And I raising 4 children for a number of years, and my 4th going off to college, I was kind of thinking, gosh, I don't really want to take care of people anymore. I don't think that's what I want to do going forward. And then, while I was here, I came to the realization that is what I do. And that is what I want to do. you know, every day. And so I'm still very passionate about helping people and giving them, you know, I've been to a lot of treatment programs.
Yeah.
And I, you know, through the grace of God, here I am, happy and healthy. And that was another thing that I think that, you know, getting sober, mentally getting well, the whole time I thought, can I do that and be happy? I want to be happy.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought that was impossible. I'll be honest. I thought, I don't know that I can do all that. I don't know if I'll be happy if I have to do all that, you know. But, man, I mean, happiness is what you get.
We were talking earlier about the concept of dry drunk, right? You know, like, hey, stopping drinking and drugging, that's one thing. But, like, how can I find happiness and peace and and understanding and tolerance and love and all these things, right? And some people, you know, like, and unfortunately, there are people that are dry drunks. And I heard somebody once use the analogy of, like, it's like going to an all-you-can-eat buffet and just drinking a glass of water. It's like, no, there's lobster, there's steak. Like, go have it all. Like, you can have it all if you continue to work on yourself and meditate and art therapy and, you know, all the stuff that you're talking about. So, like, more power to you. And I'm kind of curious because you said you have the 4 kids. How has those conversations been since you've been out and, like, you know, being mom again? You said they're in school, so it's not like the 8-year-old but like the communication with them while they're being grown-ups now, kind of deal.
You know, I think they're just happy to have their mom back.
Yeah.
You know, plain and simple. I think that's really, they can see it.
Yeah.
And you know, not only did I learn, you know, how to take care of myself, but I think I learned how to better relate to other people, how to, you know, friends, family, you know, forgiveness, for example, was always a big thing for me because I was, you know, I thought I'm not going to forgive that person for that. Why would I want to do that? You know, they hurt me, you know, screw them. I don't care about them, you know, but I had to learn about that, and learning, you know, it was liberating to learn about
it
that.
Frees you.
Freeing.
Yeah.
It does. And, you know, that's just one of the many things that I think I learned that just helps me being out in the world, you know.
No, it's funny you say that. I love the resentments. I love them.
I could hammer it. Yeah, I could kill a resentment.
When someone, like, did something to me, like, fuck you, like, you don't know who you're messing, like, well, I'm gonna get you back 10 times. I'm just gonna shun you from my life. I don't need you. Like, I love that chaos.
Yeah.
And
really
love. And now, and you kind of just talked about it, the ability to, like, be present and forgive, enjoy helping, enjoy supporting. It's, before I got sober, that was, like, so beyond me.
It's new.
To ever think that I would want to do that. And I think now it's this gift that we were all given, where we have gone through this, you know, horrific journey to get here, but we finally have got here. We know the hard work that it takes, and it's like almost like an automatic feeling we get that we want to help someone out because we could feel their pain. And and I'm sure Andy feels the same way. It's, you know, we're happy to help in any way we can because we've been there. You're not doing it for recognition. You're not doing it to say you did it. You're doing it because you actually care and you want to do it. And I think it's amazing.
This friend that was struggling was not responding to her own family because they didn't understand, and they really don't understand. And she knew that I understood, and I knew how to treat her. And I knew that I was going to sit there for 3 or 4 days before she finally said, okay, I'm going to go to treatment, because I couldn't come for 24 hours and say, okay, I'm going to make this happen, you know, because she wasn't going to respond to it at all. So I'm like, okay, I got to stay till she's got to surrender herself. I can't force her to, you know. So
much power in that surrender too once it comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it also comes sooner when the person comes to it rather than when you force it on someone. It's like all they want to do is push it away and go the opposite direction. Be like, no, like, I hear what you're saying, but I'm good. But once it comes to them, then usually people are more willing to take action on it once they've decided it's their decision. Like, okay, like I need help. Now I'm going to make the next step versus saying, you need help. I think you should do this. Well, you don't know me, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
I want to get Amy's opinion on this. And this is something I thought I knew, but until I got sober and started living. But being helpful, you don't realize, like, after you help somebody, when you helped this woman or this man, and you were, let's say, on the plane or driving back home, that feeling, like that internal, it's almost like drinking or like you almost get high from that. And it's like, oh shit, you know, like I didn't know it felt this good just to be helpful, right? So we learn that helping is like, oh shit, this is, yes, I'm helping this person, but I'm also like, holy crap, I feel pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I think that I just felt so much relief because I felt like, okay, right now there's one less person that I know right this minute that is suffering out in the world. You know, this person's safe, getting help. And, you know, it's like one person at a time, you know, get them, let's help one person at a time.
That's all we can do.
And, yeah, I mean, to say it's rewarding, I don't think does it justice. And I think that, you know, in recovery and at APN, I feel there's so much grace here. So much grace in all of the groups and, you know, the therapists and the clients and everything that's discussed. You know, when I walked in my process group, I was like, okay, you know, there's grace in this room. There just is. And
you can feel it.
You can feel it. Yeah, it's different.
When you, as the individual, decide that you're willing to make a change, I think the doors at APN just open up, and it's like whatever you want to change, like we're going to support you and whatever you want. And so I agree. I think there's a lot of grace here.
Yeah,
Love that.
We're talking a lot about helping people, guys, and you know, that was kind of the core belief behind making this podcast. I know for the two of you, was helping people find treatment, and helping people in treatment feel heard, seen, and validated. I know that you've listened to all of the episodes we've recorded for season 1.
Yes.
Did you think that you'd ever be here doing this podcast, or is this something you would have done after your first 2 treatments?
You know, I'm honored to be here. I really am. I'm honored, and I'm proud, and I'm grateful. Back in the day, did I ever think I'd be a guest on an APN podcast? Absolutely not.
No shot. No shot.
In fact, I texted a friend from me from here and told him what I was doing. And in capital letters, I put me. You know, they want me to do a podcast because I was really proud. Yeah, so it's been an incredible journey.
It's great.
Really incredible. Almost every day I think, how can I help more people? Because not everybody, you know, has access, and we've talked about this, to treatment or whatever. But I also think that people that are struggling just don't know where to turn.
Yeah.
They don't know where to turn.
No education on it.
No education. Yeah. And I think, gosh, how can we get it out there more? Yeah. You know, and I guess this is one way.
This is one way?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
To lead off that, they could go to apn.com
smooth transition
/podcasts. And there you will find all of our episodes from season 1 and this episode. If you have any questions or would like to get in contact with us, you could email us at pod@apn.com. That's pod@apn.com. Please follow us on all of our socials: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Comment, subscribe, the whole 9. Thank you again for listening. And thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy. It was great.
Thank you. Sure.